Happy Friday everyone! Today's a bit different. I'm bringing you a short get to know me video under the hashtag Get to Know Friday Sews. So hello everyone, I hope you're all well. Today is slightly different to the usual Friday Sews video. A few of the Friday Sews vloggers have decided to put out a little video just to let you know a little bit more about us under the hashtag Get to Know Friday Sews. So I've got a short list of questions here to answer so that anyone who has found me via the Friday Sews hashtag can find out a little bit about me. So the first question was, what's your name and where are you from? So I'm Ruth and this is my channel So Dysfunctional, and I live in Nottinghamshire, which is in the Midlands in the UK. And if you are a sewer and you're based in the Midlands too, please do let me know in the comments below. I am fully intending, once we are allowed out and about out of this lockdown and we can meet people and go to shops, to get in touch with any local sewers that I can find. I would love to meet up with some new people, and I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that Sew Brum will happen later on in the year. I've never been before, but I'm desperate to go, especially because I've never been to Guthrie and Garney, a beautiful fabric shop in Birmingham before. So yeah, do let me know if you're local and you fancy getting in touch. Okay, so the next question was, how long have you been sewing? Well, technically, it's probably about 20 years because I started sewing when I was at school, but it's been very sporadic since then. So really, in the way that I'm sewing now with any sort of real purpose, I would say it's been about 6 or 7 years. And over those 6 or 7 years, it's been very sporadic. I have 2 small children, so I've definitely sewn in bursts and sometimes not done anything for months. My grandma used to sew things for me when I was a little girl, and my mum also made quite a few things for me, especially when I needed things that you just couldn't buy in the shops. So I've grown up around sewing, so I guess it was inevitable that I would probably have a go at it too. The next question was, what are your machines? So I have a sewing machine and an overlocker, or serger if you're from the US. So my sewing machine is a Janome SMD 5124, and I bought that from Sewing Machines Direct, which is why it's got that SMD at the beginning of the model number. I used to have a computerised Husqvarna Viking machine, but I went to a class and tried some of the Janomes that are similar to mine model, and I really liked the mechanical machine. I just find that it feels a lot more solid. I love the clunk as you turn the dial to change the stitch, as you hear the stuff in the machine moving around. And I just found that it felt a little bit more earthy and a bit more grounded. So I really like my Janome machine. It does, of course, have its foibles, as all of them do, but on the whole, I'm pretty happy with it. My overlocker is a Juki, and it is the model number MO654DE. I've had that about 6 years now, and I absolutely love it. I initially bought it hoping to just neaten all my seams and things, but I have used it so much to make knit garments, and it has been an absolute workhorse, especially recently, because I have sewn quite a few pairs of things like Hudson pants, which have involved at times about 6 layers of fleece back sweatshirting, which is quite thick. And on the whole, my overlocker has not complained about it. Occasionally, I think the knife doesn't like cutting through at the really fast speed that it goes. So sometimes it complains a bit, and you just have to turn the dial and the needles, and then it cuts through fine. But on the whole, it has been really good. And it's also very stable on the table. So I've used a Janome overlocker before, and it made the table bounce up and down while you were using it. But my overlocker is very stable and it doesn't do that, and it's not too noisy either. So if you're looking for an overlocker, it's a good sort of mid-range, mid-price bracket machine, and I would highly recommend having a look at it. Okay, so next on the list of questions is self-taught or formal classes. So I definitely say that I'm a bit of both. The reason I've been sewing for 20 years, supposedly, is that I did textiles GCSE when I was at school. Now, if I think about it really carefully, I don't remember very much about what I learnt, and I would definitely say that most of the things I know I have learnt over the last 6 or 7 years. I'm sure I did learn stuff doing textiles GCSE, but it didn't really translate forward. So although I had that, I suppose, formal training back then, I'm not sure it's really put me in a better place for where I am sewing now. I also have attended various classes. So when I got back into sewing, I went and did a couple of classes at Sew Over It when they were running classes in London. And I have also done a couple of fitting classes at Stitch. And most recently, I did the Bodice Fit Masterclass at the New Craft House with Elisa Lex from By Hand London. I'm hoping to do a separate vlog about that because it was really interesting and enlightening, and I think it's going to be brilliant for going forward and making woven garments that fit really well for me. But it was definitely a discovery, and it was really intense and tiring. So I will be doing a vlog on that, hopefully. Let me know down in the comments if you would be interested in seeing that. I know that there are a couple of other people who've talked about doing that class, and I found that really helpful in making the decision to go on it. So yeah, let me know about that one. The rest of my sewing knowledge I have gained through making garments, learning as I go, and the internet is such an amazing wealth of information. There are so many bloggers and vloggers out there doing tutorials and giving you loads of information on fitting, on fabrics, on patterns. There's just so much information that you can find online, and I think it really is possible to be self-taught and get very, very good very, very quickly if you have the time to put in to practice. It's also a big learning journey, so I definitely think that having done the in-person classes that I've done has been really helpful, but I've not had any sort of proper kind of degree level formal training in sewing. It's all just me in my little sewing room figuring things out as I go. Right, the next topic was knits or wovens, and it's definitely knits for me. They are easier to fit from a pattern, they are easier to wear. I basically live in t-shirts and jeans, and so it makes sense that I get to know how to work with knit fabric. I know that they are quite often not the go-to start for a new sewer, and that is totally understandable because working with a stable woven fabric is much easier to get to grips with just using your machine, basic stitches and things like that. But knits really aren't that scary, and if you've not used them before, I would really recommend getting hold of a basic t-shirt pattern or something like that. There are loads online, free ones as well. And just get hold of some decent stable cotton lycra jersey and have a go at t-shirt. I tend to whiz all my stuff up on an overlocker these days, but you can sew knits just as easily on a sewing machine as long as you're using a stretch stitch. Having recently done the fitting class that I did, though, I am planning to use more woven fabrics this year. I am a real sucker for a lovely viscose. They just drape nicely. There are loads of really beautiful patterns. Oh, I really gravitate towards that kind of fabric, but I haven't used very much of it, and I've got at least one box full of viscose fabrics that are all washed and ready to go. So I am planning to use more woven fabrics this year if I can, but I have to say, just for knowing that I'm making something that's going to go into my wardrobe and I'm going to wear a lot, knit fabrics are definitely my favourite. So the next heading was Big Four or Indie, and that's to do with sewing patterns. When I started sewing, independent sewing patterns didn't really exist. So it was all about, well, maybe there were more than 4 back then. Butterick McCall's, Simplicity, Vogue, Quick Sew, Burda. I remember, 6 mainly from when I was younger, and they were all that was available. But I have to say, these days for me it's independent patterns that are my favourite. I find that the Big Four, as they're called now, the fitting can be very odd. the blocks that they draft to really are nothing like my body shape, and I have to do so many adjustments to the pattern. I quite often find that the finished garment measurement ease in the patterns is very odd, often very big, but not in proportion. And I have to say that the big four patterns that I've got at the moment, I don't tend to really even bother looking at. I'm a big fan of independent patterns. There are so many different people out there, and they've all got, excuse me, dropping my book, they've all got their own individual style, which I love. So there is a really big range of styles and fashions and things that you can look at with independent pattern designers. Also, what's not to love about choosing a pattern, being able to print it out if you've got a printer at home, sticking it together, cutting it out, and 2 hours later you've got a pattern, especially as we don't have any sewing shops near us. I think that's brilliant that you can just see a pattern, buy it, and have it ready to go in a couple of hours. And there are more and more pattern designers popping up here and there. I'd highly recommend, if you haven't yet, going and have a look at the Fold line. They have a whole wealth of pattern info, and you can buy your patterns from there as well. So they're a really good place to look. But yeah, for me, definitely these days, independent patterns are my go-to. So the next question was online shopping or in store. And if that's talking about fabric, which I'm pretty sure it is, surely everybody wants to go to a fabric shop and feel the fabric and touch how soft it is and feel the weight and the stretch and how it moves. I mean, that is preferable, isn't it? Just hands down, it's much nicer to actually go and look at the fabric in person. But even though there are new places popping up here and there, you know, I don't have anything very local to me here. And the new online fabric shops that are popping up are brilliant, and they carry so much stock. Loads of different types of fabrics, quite often similar sort of ranges across different shops, so you can know that if you've bought one fabric from one place, another one from another place is going to be quite similar. They are also now putting out a lot more content on places like Instagram and on YouTube, videos of the fabric, answering questions. Guthrie Ghani is brilliant for that. She does an Instagram live at 8 o'clock every Friday evening. She's in the shop, so you can ask questions live. She shows you fabric, she gives you recommendations. I know that Harriet from Sew Me Sunshine has started doing YouTube videos as well about her new stock coming in. So it is possible to get the information you need. There is nothing like that feeling when you've ordered something though and it arrives and it just wasn't quite what you thought it was going to be. And generally it's fine, and you know, you'll have done your research to the weight and what kind of fibre it is and things, and it will be the right thing. But yeah, sometimes you have it in your head and it arrives and it's not quite what you expected, and that is a little bit disappointing. But generally the quality of the fabrics that are being sent out from online shops is really, really good, and they are brilliant at answering any questions that you might have. Also, it means you have access to a much wider range of fabrics, which I think is really good. I recently bought some merino wool jersey from New Zealand, which you just can't really get here. So that was amazing to know that it was coming from over there, and I can actually buy it without having to go to New Zealand. By the way, I would really like to go to New Zealand right now. I have been there a couple of times. It's beautiful, and I wish I could be there. But that's beside the point. I got the fabric that I wanted from there at the click of a button, and it arrived within, I can't remember, about 10 days. It was brilliant. So can't fault what you can buy online. Personally, I would always much prefer to see it in person, but what you can get online now is really good. So I'm kind of sitting on the fence on that one. Your favourite sewing task was the next header on this list. And I sat and thought through the sewing process. And when I'd finished, I was starting to question whether I actually enjoy sewing at all, because patterns, I always need to do loads of adjustments, and that's really boring. And if you've got a PDF pattern and you're printing it at home, sticking it together and cutting it out is really boring, in my opinion. Cutting out fabric, meh, by that point I just want to be getting on with sewing. starting off the sewing of a project. I quite like that. There's that really nice feel of excitement of starting to put something together. Pressing seams? No, I don't want to do that. I just want them to be pressed magically by themselves so I can get on and sew the next bit. Thanks very much. But I know it's important, so I do it. Midway through a project, oh, I'm starting to get a bit frustrated now because I want it to be finished. I want to be able to wear it, but I've still got to do the hemming and I hate the hemming. But finishing something off always gives me that massive sense of pride, and I love being able to wear something that I've just finished. So I just love sewing as a whole. I love creating something from nothing, basically. Making something you can wear from a piece of paper and a bolt of fabric is really cool. Do I have a favourite process? I'm not sure that I do, but I do love sewing as a whole, and it's just brilliant, isn't it, to be creative? Okay, so I'm nearly at the end of my list now, and the next heading is your best advice to other sewers. From my point of view, it is if you are a slow sewer, that's okay. I am a slow sewer and sometimes I find it frustrating. But what I have learned is it is absolutely okay to take your time and not be the kind of person that makes 4 things every month. I would rarely manage to do that. I just think that when you sew slowly and take your time, you're going to make fewer mistakes, and you're also much better placed to really learn from what you're doing in terms of improving your technique and things like that, rather than rushing through everything just to get to the finished item. There are definitely times when I do sew faster, when I've said I'll make something for possibly one of my children and I've left it to the last minute. Yep, I do that all the time. But generally, I like to take things quite slowly, and I have come to accept that that is okay. And so if you are a slow sewer and you sometimes find yourself being frustrated, just know that it's okay, and probably in the end you're better off and you will find that you're a better sewer at the end of it. And lastly, how did you find out about Friday Sews? Well, I think the first #Friday Sews video I watched was by Hales from Hales More Sewing. And from that, I found lots of new vloggers, which has been really nice. The whole thing seems to have been started by Jen from Today in Jen's Sewing Room. But there is a list of people that I know of, so I will put that in the description box, and you can go and check out any other vloggers that you've not seen before, in case you want to find some more Friday Sews stuff. So I hope you've enjoyed finding out a little bit about me. Please do like this video and subscribe if you are not a subscriber and you would like to see when my next video comes out. Do leave me a comment if you've got any other questions that I haven't answered here that you'd like to know. I will, over the next week, make sure I have got another episode of Friday Sews ready to put out next Friday. So until then, I hope you're all well. Stay safe and take care of yourselves, and I hopefully will see you soon. Bye!